thin lines I drew earlier, because I don't really need them anymore. They're there just to find my place. And this one's not really going anywhere. I don't know why I drew that one. It's a mistake, but to make it seem like it's going, it's kind of a cheat there. It's not really going anywhere, but I'm gonna leave it. I like the way it looks. You can, feel free to cheat things later on. Sometimes if they make the drawing look nicer, they make them look nicer. I know Frank Frazetta would he would put like 8 abs or more, I forget, on some guys because it just looked kind of cool, even though it's anatomically not correct. But he knew what he was doing. That's the one thing. You got to. I wouldn't do that at the beginning. Once you learn the rules, you can break them a lot more than you would think. So okay, this is about the point where I would really, really like try to, if you're gonna render it more, or if you're gonna leave it more kind of like line art-ish, the way it is. But if I was really gonna render it out, I would sharpen my pencil a little bit here, which I don't have a sharpener, so I'm gonna grab a mechanical pencil. I'll grab a different one, just a mechanical pencil like this, and I'm gonna try to go into really, really small crevices if I can. I'm gonna really try to refine things here. When I sketch for myself, just in my sketchbook or notepad, I will always use a mechanical pencil, almost always. It's just a habit I have. I like the fact that you never have to sharpen it, whereas a regular pencil I have to carry a mini sharpener around and maybe use different values of pencils. But with this, I don't really get that. I don't know. Feels like I have to carry less stuff. It's a little too dark here. I went a little too dark, so I'm going to erase that. What I'm doing right now is I'm going with the form. I'm imagining this as a 3D object in my head. And I'm trying to go around the skull. Like when I draw a tiny line, my tiny lines wrap around. That's funny. I just drew that wrong. They wrap around the skull. So when I draw these little tiny lines, they're going to be going with the form. And you may not think it makes a difference, but it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. I can't stress that enough. When you shade, when you put this light value, anything, this halftone, go with the form, with it. And that's something you're probably only going to get through repetition from drawing stuff from real life. Like, if you're not in a life drawing class and you want to draw people, get in a life drawing class. That is a shortcut. It's a huge shortcut because you're gonna get so much mileage, and not to mention it's harder to draw from life because the proportions get a little whacked when you're drawing from reference in real life. Whereas when you're drawing from a photo, you can literally measure stuff out, and it's a lot easier. There's no moving; they don't move. The models in real life will move a little bit. Let's see. I kind of like the way this looks over here, so the way it has this thicker line. I'm gonna try to put a thicker line on the contour of the outside of this. See how that looks. I actually don't know how this is gonna look, so. Oh, snap. I broke the pencil. I like that, actually. I'm going to do it all along the edge here. And I'm really careful about making this decision because that is something that I will probably not be able to completely erase if I want to. So don't go too heavy-handed too quickly because that will be a huge mistake if you want to change the position. For example, if I want to move this wing over this, like let's say I want to grab this entire wing and move it over, it's gonna be pretty hard to do that even at this stage. I could do it. It's not grinded in there. It's not ground into the paper, but it's gonna be pretty tough to do that. And you're gonna see these line marks if I try to move it. As opposed to this line right here, I just dug it right in there, and that is not coming out. So I really urge you to draw lightly. Draw very lightly at first, and then work up the value. Draw the back of the neck over here and the shadow. This needs shadow over here. I don't know why I didn't even look at it. For teeth, I know a general good amount about teeth, but I don't know it that well. I more or less just draw the teeth similar, except unless if I'm doing a vampire or some kind of animal where the canines are really sharp, then I'll do something. This is something that I've seen a lot of guys at school do. Sometimes when you're laying down the pencil, no matter what kind of pencil it is, it's gonna look. You're gonna want it to be a little bit smooth. Do not buy a shader. Those are trash. Those little you ever seen those? They look like Q-tips, and they're supposed to be for smoothing out. I forget what they're called. They're supposed to be for smoothing out the pencil. You don't need that. You can use your finger, and don't overdo it. If you overdo it, it's gonna look like plastic. It will give too smooth makes things look very plasticky. So I would just maybe run it through a little bit, like put some straight lines in there, little tiny straight lines, and then do it once. That's it. Don't touch it after that, because you're gonna make a habit to smooth everything out, and that's not good. Experiment to what level you want it to be smooth. Like, I remember back when people first started doing digital, I don't know, like, 12 years ago now? Earlier? I don't know. Everything looked way too smooth. Way too smooth, because there's no texture. And that was one of the hardest things to kind of replicate at the time. At least in a convincing way. And that's what always made drawings look completely flat. Okay, see, this line right here, this is a dark line, but I want it to carry through and slowly gradate up into the forehead over here, up into the side of the head. Because that's a plane, I want it to slowly... It's going to go from dark, light, and slowly kind of lighten up as it gets over here. Rub it through. I'm going to put the whole side of this plane, actually, in a little, very light value right here. Taking a look at it on the camera. Okay, here's another error. See these right here that I drew? They're too the same. It's not repetitive enough. So what I would do is I would go in here and just mess with them. Maybe something like make one shorter than the other. Maybe make one disconnected, because it just looks like 3 lines on his face. Actually, I'm gonna completely get rid of that top one. If you make something look random, it will look better, normally, for almost anything. Wrinkles, things that ruffle, you know. If you make them two the same, it will look mechanical and it will look man-made. And those look a little harsh too. I would actually put some shadow around them a little bit, because a little harsh. Here's another tip. This right here, this dimple, I connect it with some lighter tones to kind of connect it. You never ever want to leave a dark shape floating, like, let's say out in the middle of his forehead, a dark shape. You never want to do that. It just looks too piecey, like a piece, but piecey. And it'll kind of, it won't unify the drawing. You want the drawing to be unified and kind of balanced. And the only way to do that is to, you know, never leave little islands of dark floating out there. Alright. Putting in a lot of light value over here now. What's this? I'm still not 100% satisfied with this, but I'll leave that for now. I might change that later. Whoa, forgot to... Oh, his teeth is completely white. Alright, and now I'm going to go back into the dark of the dark. I'm going to put a gradation. I'm going to make the pit of the eye the darkest here, the eye socket. And I'm going to lighten it up. I'm going into the shadows, and I'm putting detail in the shadows now. I'm lightening it out as it comes out. So I'm making it the darkest over here, and I'm trying to lighten it up as it gets over here. I'll do the same thing over here, the darkest down here. Just put some dark there. Do the same thing here. I'm going to do some dark in this way, which should be furthest into the skull, you can see. And I'm going to do the same thing back here in the shadow from the wing. Sometimes it's a good idea. What I was doing there was sometimes I'll stand up and look at it, because when you're up like I am right now, kind of hunched over the drawing, you lose sight of it. You get too subjective. You get too close to it. That's why people put their drawings sometimes like against mirrors, so you get a fresh eye kind of view on it. Or if you ever hunch over and draw at an angle, it looks completely proportioned, but maybe once you turn the paper up, it's completely off proportion. Alright, and I would put some more shadow here in the wings, but I'm running out of time. So what I would do from here is normally I would go back into it and just keep going over and over and refining little things. For example, this line, let's say this line down here, it's a little wavy. I would maybe just pull it back with the eraser, pull it back in tone, and try to straighten it out. Or I'd try to fuzz it out, depending on where it is. And it depends what look you're going for. If you're going for a rendered look, you would smooth more things out. And if you're going for more of a contrast look, maybe some more line art. There's a lot. Like I said, I put that line out there. You would take a different approach. You'd probably go really hard on some of these lines, like hard. Maybe this one I would go really hard on it if I was doing it that way, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to make it a combination of the both kind of linear and both linear and tonal. So, anyways, that's all for right now, and